Dyer, you're on. And see, no camera.
We will call to order Johnstown Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Tuesday, June 25th, 6:30 PM. Start off with a roll call.
Sherman
Teresa.
Jesse Copple.
Here.
Ryan Green.
Here.
Ben Lee. Oh.
Nice.
Steve Dyer.
We're casual. Here.
Kristen Hurst.
Everybody stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Twice in one day.
I know,
Like I'm back at school.
right?
Open the floor, item number 4, public comment on items not on the agenda. Hearing no public comment, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes from the May 28th, 2024 meeting. I'll make a motion to pass as is.
I'll second it.
Steve Dyer.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Jesse Copple.
Yes. Item number 6, application 6-25-1 PD map amendment application 5206 and 5206 and 5230 Clover Valley and 12017 Duncan Plains Road. Start with our staff analysis.
All right. So I'm going to defer to our attorney because this is a little bit more complex than usual. I'll briefly try to summarize the normal process that happens with a annexation. Typically, it comes in as agricultural, and there's all the various things that happen that we work through. In a similar situation with Mr. Nybarger property, goes for a zoning map amendment. Because of 1165 and how the PD district was laid out in our codified ordinance, it leaves a provision for us not to have to go through that if it meets certain criteria. So with that said, I'd probably let the applicant come up, and then I can also give you feedback when things relate to what our attorney has given. There is one recommendation that he has as far as a condition, and I've talked to the applicant, and they are willing to abide by that recommendation. So whenever that time comes, they can either mention that, or I can as well. But I think Aaron's going to do a better job of explaining this. He has interacted with our legal counsel. If he deviates from anything that's on this sheet, I will jump up and immediately wave a red flag or something, toss a flag on the field. I don't know.
Ready?
Yep, come on up.
Everybody, once again, Aaron Underhill with Underhill and Hodge at 8000 Walton Parkway in New Albany, attorney for the applicant. Jamie McNally is here. The purpose of this is, I think when we were going through the large rezoning, we mentioned that we saw scenarios where we may be able to pick up pieces around the perimeter of this site and sort of, as those opportunities arose, we wanted to be able to capitalize on your procedure in your code, which is to allow us to sort of tack on to that all those things that we got approved and you all agreed upon at the first go around. So we have annexed both of these parcels into the city, and one is 4 acres, one is 5 acres, sort of in the northwest portion, to the northwest of the existing PD district and adjacent to it. All we're asking for is to apply the same standards that apply to sub-area 1 to these parcels, and also so we're calling them sub-area 1A and 1B. I think had a lot of discussion about how best to go through this process, and then working with your legal counsel and Sean and Teresa, what we decided was let's keep it simple here. You got like a 2-page zoning text in front of you that basically reiterates the commitments in the existing larger zoning. At the end of all of this, and this will be the condition that Sean proposes, we will actually incorporate this into the larger document so everything's all in one place and can be read together, and hopefully it'll be easier to follow as we keep going with this. We do have 2 other annexations that are currently pending for some properties along Green Chapel Road, so we'll be doing this again in the not too distant future. But I think this simplified process in your PD district saves everybody time and effort. And, you know, we've already spent a lot of time and effort going through all of those development standards that were approved as a part of the zoning. So here again, just tacking on to that, and we can answer your questions.
So council approved the annexation, so now it's in Johnstown.
Yep.
And it's currently zoned, what's its current?
Residential.
So this is where I leaned on Thad to kind of walk through this. I believe it's agricultural, but because of 1165, we can circumvent the entire process that it has to walk through zoning and council, and it just requires a recommendation, denial, or approve with conditions from you all. And it doesn't have to go before council because their passage of 1165 with this provision in it addresses it.
I thought it would.
I think it does go to
I
council.
think this is a recommendation to council tonight.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it goes back, because like it would have
Fair enough.
to come in as ag.
Right,
And that's-
correctly change it,
Yeah.
I think your
That's
charter
fine.
requires, so it's really a zoning amendment, but the qualifications to get this particular type of amendment are very specific, and it requires the applicant to be the same, or an owner in that PD district originally to be the same as an owner or contractual buyer here. We happen to own these two sites already.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
good.
I agree with Sean, because I was semi-confused on this too, because it'll come in as ag traditionally.
Right.
So if you wanted to build on it right now, you could build a barn and
Right.
throw up some corn or something, I guess, but
Right.
if you wanted to change it to that PD district, that's what we would have to apply to that zoning map. That was I was gonna ask that question, so.
There you go.
Glad we crossed that bridge. I mean, ultimately, we know what the intention of it was. Council passed this with the intention of it going to the PD district. I mean, I think I don't think it's a massive secret of what's going on. So. And then, so this will be part of that PD district, which still has not come for a final plat in front of council. So
Correct.
if anything was up with this that was out of the ordinary, it can all be fixed in that final plat meeting anyway.
Yeah, and you'll have, you know, with this district, or with this sub-area, you have that new board you're constituting, which hasn't met yet because there hasn't been a project.
Right.
We're getting closer. But this will be reviewed as part of likely a larger project.
All right, further questions?
It's contiguous with the other parcels, is that correct?
Yes, and we have a map that Jamie could.
This map's hard to see in my pack.
Context, yeah.
Yeah, so this doesn't have the zoning on it, but, sub-area one.
Yep.
Is this. So these are just rounding out the edges. So these would be joining what's already in that sub-area.
In the future, this is a good map to show us.
Okay,
Yeah, you know, when I filed this, I thought,
Yeah.
we need to
Yep.
provide you the.
Go to
context.
council.
I mean, because otherwise I'm fine because I go on the county auditor page and find it
Yeah,
anyway,
wrong
but,
Before, and I will be
yeah,
wrong
but this
again.
is a good map for,
Yeah.
I was hoping to prevent it, but you're right.
This guy came in, remember?
Yeah, I stand corrected on the council. They will need to go through it, but I don't believe with the other SR1 and SR2, gosh, that was a 3-month process. This is more expedited. And then just to answer your question, Jesse, it does not have to be contiguous in order for it to be eligible
Be here all together with the
to
rest
be
of them.
put into the PD district. And that's in 1165.01E. But this one is, so. And then Teresa's right. Thad's final recommendation hadn't got to it yet. The next step following PZ recommendation is consideration and decision by council, so. Just need to do all my homework.
Gene, if you wanted to maybe add an additional condition that exhibit's part, or however you wanna make it part of the record, and then we can council, make sure they see it, and you'll have that context there as well.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's just a good map to kind of paint a better picture for everybody. I spend a lot of time on the county auditor page, but not everybody does. All right, further. It's not my meeting. I won't lead it.
If he's still reviewing something.
I'm good. If you guys want to make a motion, I'm fine. Just reading through my PUD code real quick. But I think I'm good with this. All right, I'll make the motion to approve. What was the condition that Thad
Great.
suggested? I would like to reference that at least. to see what he had to say.
Thad's condition, it should be a condition of approval that the applicant will prepare and provide a full PD district text and supporting documents as amended for the city to keep on file prior to the submittal of a final development plan application for the new sub-area 1-A and 1-B. And I can read that again if you're making a motion and just attach it, or you can just reference what I literally just read.
Make a motion to approve with the condition from our legal counsel.
I'll second it.
Jesse Koppel,
Yep.
Steve Dyer,
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Thank you.
I
That was
would-
easier than last time.
Yes.
Wish
Quite
I-
a few less pages than last time.
Wish I had something to use.
This is a recommendation of approval, Counselor. I mean, that is what it is, right?
It is a recommendation.
Yeah.
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 We're recommending, right?
So it,
It's not approved yet. Council will
Right.
have the final
So this
authority.
goes to council for final approval.
Yep.
or just a recommendation board.
The JV team.
Hey, well, if they go.
Let's see where we're at here with our meeting.
We'll see. We'll see.
It's still Bye.
See y'all.
Number 7, our zoning inspector report.
You're just in there.
Haven't looked at it yet.
One sign. One new business. They're related.
The only thing that I was gonna call out, was over at the condos. It looks like they mowed the majority of the property, but the mounds are still there, still high grass on those. I noticed that there were some people walking the site, so I don't know if there's traction on that site, but there were guys with clipboards. I noticed some other markings out there, so I don't know if anything's happening.
Contact I had with Coughlin a couple weeks ago was that they are frustrated that the underground took place and then it's been so long since the above ground excavation. So whenever I made contact, they said we're going to push the same people that did the underground to come back and do the above ground excavation in short order. So that is probably what they were doing out there. He made it sound like they were going to expedite it, and this would give them some leverage to lean on that company that they had hired to do this. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I can give a call to Scott and see if they can, at a minimum, get the high grass off of the mounds that exist there, or if he can give me a timeline when the grading is gonna be done to where it can be leveled, get some. There's already a silt fence there, they've already done
Yeah.
corrective action there, but I would assume they're gonna start probably moving some dirt in the near future.
Yeah, I'm sure they're frustrated too. They'd,
Yeah.
they'd probably like to be halfway through that project by now.
Don't disagree.
And then the other thing I was gonna call out was, obviously a lot of construction projects going on in neighborhoods right now, small construction, interior stuff going on, trash being left out at the curb, rental turnovers, things like that. I've noticed in my rounds around town, obviously. there's a lot of stuff at the curb, not just on trash day. Lot, and funny enough, a lot of it shows up on Thursday.
So is it getting removed?
It's Terry's Monday through Wednesday.
Does it get
I didn't put that
removed?
together either.
I was like, trash day's Monday.
Does it get removed on Monday?
either. I was.
Once the trash
Come
comes
on, you gotta think
around?
like a contractor. We're
Trash picks up everything.
So on Monday though, it gets generally removed. They're just setting it out.
it gets
on
picked
Monday.
up on Monday, but it'll sit there from like Wednesday through the weekend to Monday, and it's out. And I
don't
know that
that we have any provisions in our
Right,
code that
like, what do
prevent.
we do about that?
Yeah, you can only put your trash out so many hours before.
we do. We have a
Yeah.
rule on the trash.
There
You
you
know.
go. Sweet.
But who's gonna,
Is that a zoning or is that a
Zoning.
administrative?
it's zoning.
Okay.
But you're right. How can we? It's
Give
all
you a
That's,
zoning-
that's the
enforceability.
thing. It
Zoning
pops up on
badge.
Thursday when zoning's. Don't give
If
me.
he's
a
not
zoning
working
badge.
Thursday, well, there's
Yeah.
a solution though.
Here's your
But,
zoning ticket.
I have one question. What's the new business? Do you know what the new business permit was?
I would imagine it was for yarnology,
Okay.
if I had to take a guess.
Same as the sign.
Yes. That is my assumption.
What'd you guys do with that?
All right. Do we have any other questions from the zoning inspector's report?
Anything new that should be coming up on our radar? I saw some signs out. Is there anything on Mink coming? Thought I saw a zoning sign out on Mink.
Demolition permit will be coming before you all, I would imagine, at the next meeting. They had some additional requirements that needed to be submitted. Those didn't come in until late. We danced around the idea of giving those to you today, and having the applicant here, but we actually shifted away from that, thinking that you need a little bit more time, and that would be putting you guys on the spot without proper notification. So we told the applicant it'll be on the next agenda item.
Is that the house that's there?
No, it's
No?
the
Okay.
garage,
Okay.
which is located west of the house. And you guys will probably have a variety of questions.
So when those signs go up, how fast do those ones in the yard go up before we know about it usually?
Oh, I forget what the requirement, is it
10 days ahead
10
of time.
days?
Okay.
So it has to be 10 days ahead of the meeting.
Yeah.
So the sign would be up before you get your packet.
Well, because that one, I mean, I saw that one on my own, but I've gotten that question from people in town. They're like, "What's
They
going on
see
with
it,
that?"
and
And I'm
you
like,
haven't gotten the
"I
packet."
haven't gotten the packet
Right,
yet."
right.
I'm like, "What do you mean I know about it and you don't know about it?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, it's an issue." And I'm like, "Can't tell you. I'll tell you in another week."
Right. Yeah, you guys
I mean, you can always call and talk to Terry.
Yeah.
He's the one that puts them out.
Yeah. Sometimes the process starts, but the final staff report isn't done. So we haven't, that or it's coming from Trevor or something like that, so.
So they don't call me, call the city.
Call the
Yeah,
city.
but you can call the city.
That's it.
Terry can help.
Terry can help you out, Trevor can give you a background, I could try to fill in, or Teresa can, but sometimes we just don't have the full report done, so.
All right, that's the only things I had.
Did you notice a new sign violation?
I did. I wasn't gonna bring it up.
We'll have Terry go out there and check it out. We're gonna have to come in and get all the requirements.
Yep. On the route, I see all kinds of things. when
paper
you
route? Is it
when
the
you
paper
drive
route?
no when you're on the mowing route, you drive around town 4 or 5 times in a day. You see everything. By the time you leave in the morning, drive the route, pick the kids up, go back home, come here, you
it.
see everything in the whole town.
It's the loop. So yeah, Terry will send them a notification, letting them know they need to come in and either A, remove it, or B, go through the proper steps to make it compliant. So there will be some provisions I'm sure you guys will have to walk through. I don't know if they'll need a variance or not. I don't have any dimensions, so I don't know. Don't know.
Item number 8, other business on the agenda. Anybody got anything?
I only had one item. Just had discussion with Design Review Board about the demolition piece. It was kicked directly to council. at the last council meeting. If you have a desire to look that over, it's getting redirected. Currently, the demos come to you all. It's being put back into design review board, so I still value your input if you have a recommendation, but ultimately it would be criteria and qualifications that they would have to go by. So it's in front of council, expediting this process.
So it's a change in the zoning code?
It's actually a change in the 1187, which is more, it is zoning code, but it's falls under the COA, which is a division of the design review board. And for whatever reason, way back in the day, I think they didn't remove the wording that had the demolition. For a COA permit, the demolition, for whatever reason, went to planning and zoning instead of staying with all of the design review board. So what this does is it requires a COA. That COA is typically done through design review board. It will continue to stay with design review board in that respect. And then there's criteria that are listed. So that got kicked to council. It's in the packet. I think we made one amendment tonight that the board came up with, which I thought was a good recommendation. And then if you guys have any recommendations, feel free to reach out and we'll look at it, try to give you feedback. I don't know the council will pass it next meeting. They may. I think the design review board had indicated they would like to see them pass it because even if they pass it, it still takes 30 days to go into effect. And our current ordinance is really, really, really insufficient as it relates to the demolitions of a structure. So getting something on the books is better than what we have now. And then ultimately, whenever we start to review the entire design review guidelines, they can modify it.
So my reading of the charter is that any change to part 11 would have to come through us before it goes to council for recommendation.
So I think it says may, doesn't specifically state. Yaz has had this discussion, I think, with council.
What's it say? You got it pulled up?
Oh, it doesn't say may, I'm sure of that, but I can pull it up. This is our, I don't have the charter on here. It's
Where's
on
Louis
my-
Mann to yell shall?
Shall.
What
Eighth
section is
grade.
it, Jesse?
What is sixth grade? You ready at the third, sixth grade level?
It's like the power and
Spot on.
responsibilities of the zoning board.
Planning and zoning
You're in the
commission.
charter?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Planning and Zoning Commission shall have the power and duty to hear applications for land use, zoning classifications or districts, and as merited, to submit written recommendations for legislative action or to render final determination for administrative action. They can initiate review, recommend legislation, rules, and regulations on all matters of municipal planning, land use, and zoning classifications, and to exercise such other powers, duties, and functions.
So we can.
Yeah.
That sounds like we would have to delegate or choose not to. And I don't think that we've ever chosen not to.
They shall have the power and duty to hear applications for land use, zoning classifications or districts, and as merited to submit recommendations. I think there's also another piece in the charter that says council has the ability to pass any ordinance or legislation. I'm gonna try to find that piece too. Council.
We can definitely take a look at it and make a recommendation either way.
So it contradicts
It's already
it.
had the first reading in council.
Yeah. Powers of
Unless they
council.
tabled it.
Create
No, we
command.
didn't table it.
Right. I know this question's come up before, and Yaz is usually given his opinion on the matter as it relates to
I think the last time it did was the International Property Maintenance Code.
maybe.
And we brought it back here and made a recommendation and then sent it back to council.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like a general best practice since of my reading of the charter. If it's not really expediency, I mean, I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt, but
I'm not sure. Can you just say again what section of the charter you're referencing? I
What
see
section was
Planning
that,
and Zoning
Sean?
Commission,
So that section that I read, it was powers and duties of
right?
boards and commissions,
Your
planning and zoning,
applications.
7.03.
Right, I'm in it. I'm just not sure I see that they have the power and duty to hear applications and as merited to submit written recommendations for legislative action. So they have the
This
power to
would be a
suggest
legislative
legislative action
Mm-hmm. So that's not the part, keep going.
or to render final determinations for administrative action, to initiate review, recommend legislation.
That's the part.
So you're saying this is
Well, you
an
do have
this is an administrative
you can
action?
review and recommend, like, yeah, you have the power to initiate, like if you see a part of the code that needs changed, to initiate, review and recommend legislation.
Yeah, so I would like to review zoning change recommend legislation. And that sounds like a
I
power.
took that as a continuation of initiating, but I don't. To initiate, review, and recommend legislation.
We can check with Yaz if you want, or not, doesn't matter.
I mean, I can't.
I'd like to check with them because, I mean, we're gonna be changing the code a lot here in the next 2 years, so.
And
Be
again,
good to
it
lay it
comes
down
also,
now.
I mean, there's these type of things, obviously, you can probably interpret the legalese, how you, a million different ways. My view, my point is that to err on the side of thoroughness, the conservative reading of it would be to give everybody a shake at it. Unless there was a certain circumstance, I'm not trying to.
Well, no, and I think that was the intent of letting you know tonight, it's still a week prior to council, and if there is any objection on what's currently drafted, I would highly recommend that you give comments or show up at the meeting.
That way they have a chance to.
Yeah,
tackle it.
and then they can table it at that point. The expedited piece of this was knowing that we may or may not have a meeting, but we have a meeting now. It would go before you, then the first reading wouldn't go to council until next week, but there would probably be a draft that would have to be written before then. So the delaying of the process would probably add an additional month, maybe month and a half. That's usually why we try to expedite things sometimes, is because of the timing of it.
Did you find that other code provision that you said that would supersede? Because my reading of the chart, that section is that we would have the right to review.
So it says procedure for consideration of legislation, introduction. Legislation may be introduced by any council member at any regular or special council meeting. Prior to the introduction of any legislation, the clerk of council shall distribute a copy of the legislation to each council member and to the manager file a reasonable number of copies. I think this is the
And
piece.
that's what happened.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's for legislation, and that's 4.03 for procedures for consideration of legislation, so. I'm
So
in
if it's
favor of it.
zoning, they could introduce it, but then it would have to go down to us to review that legislation that would be introduced, because we have the right to review, is my interpretation of that charter language.
I think you have the ability, but not the, if council so chooses, they can kick it to you, but there's, it's not the requirement for your review from what I'm reading.
And I also,
Or you could
like I
choose to
said, I take it as
initiate
you can initiate, comma, review and recommend legislation. So you can initiate, but this wasn't initiated by zoning.
Yeah, and I would, and like I said, we can agree to disagree on it. We'll take Thad's,
Unless we review their.
I guess,
Okay.
recommendation would be good, but I review those commas as separate rights in my reading of it. I'm not saying I'm a legal genius, but.
I'll say.
Got a law degree.
So you're.
You got a law degree. It's
I
more
wanna
than I
make
got.
sure I understand. So you're saying that
Any section
anything that
11,
affects zoning.
any section 11 has,
should be reviewed
it
by-
should start, it has to come through here, and then we would recommend
Okay.
or disrec,
Yeah, I'll ask
or not
him.
recommend to.
I'll ask.
Yeah.
No, I get it. And council may council may see something in zoning that they want to change, but it would be nice if they ran that through us for review before voting on it. They may see something in the 2 or 3 zoning cases they hear a year that they want to change, so. I think we'll be supportive of this one, because it was the last demolition that we heard.
I'm not gonna hold up this particular one or
Yeah.
anything, man.
Sean brought up from what, Worthington?
Yeah.
Their guidelines, because our guidelines were pretty short. It was a pretty short barrier with us. So,
They didn't give you guys good teeth.
no, we really didn't. So this'll be a much more comprehensive approach that we probably would support. But no, I agree. We're gonna have a lot of changes coming up, so I wanna lay that down. I wanna establish those ground rules now of who sees what, and, cause there may be something we don't like later on. And there has been in the past. I know the last time this happened was with the International Property Maintenance Code.
House of Pancakes.
What's that?
House of Pancakes,
All
International.
right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
International House of
International.
Get me out of here.
That's where we ended.
International House of Pancakes. It sounds good. I haven't been there for